Yeah, it's me again. Today I'm presenting our participation results in the morpheme extraction task, and this is actually mostly the work of our Indian student who came to us from ISI, Johannes Leveling. So the title of this presentation is ECU meets Maths, Bengali entity morpheme extraction. Brief outline, again, a short motivation, why we do this research, description of the task, and then I'll present the Bengali and the standing approaches we use for the task, show you some results. So the main motivation is that in information retrieval you have to deal with complex inflectional or derivational morphology. So the surface form you find in your document might not match the query terms the users would enter otherwise. And if you have a mismatch, you won't find all the relevant documents. One example is that you have words like company or companies. The whole idea is to map these different surface forms to the same index form to actually find documents where any of these variants is used. There are different approaches to actually do this reduction, to map different surface forms to the same index term or to the same base form. The easiest one is stemming, where you just cut off different suffixes from a word until you think you found a base form. But stemming means that we can actually end up with something that is not a word, not a proper word in the language. And in contrast to that, lemmatization actually aims to reduce surface forms to the proper lemma, which you would find as a dictionary entry. And there are some more advanced approaches from NLP, where you also analyze the prefixes, suffixes, and components of the different words. So in this morpheme extraction task, the goal is to investigate the effects of these different approaches to morphologic analysis, could be lemmatization or stemming, and investigate their effect on the information retrieval performance. And this task offers two subtasks. One is the manual evaluation of the morpheme extraction, and the second one is the evaluation based on information retrieval metrics, where the participants had to supply their processed words submitted to the organizers, and the organizers ran experiments using the Terrier system. The evaluation metric in this case is mean average precision, a standard metric in information retrieval. Considering stemming, again, there are different types of stemmers, different approaches, light versus aggressive stemming. For example, light stemmers would remove only very few suffixes. For example, in English, you would remove the genitive S or apostrophe S from words and do some minor modifications to the surface forms, while aggressive stemming aims to reduce as much as possible from the words. Then you have different approaches varying from rule-based stemmers, which are costly to develop. You would have to do the same development for a different language, versus automatic approaches. For example, corpus-based stemming would look at the document collection and try to identify the most frequent suffixes. You would typically end up with a cluster of related words which are all mapped to the same index term. And the three major problems you would have with stemming approaches are overstemming, which means you actually remove too much from the surface form. For example, news is typically stemmed to new with something like the border stemmer, which is a standard English stemmer. Or international might be stemmed to intern, which has a completely different meaning. So that's not what you want to do in information retrieval, because you lose some of the precision. The second effect you could have is understanding, where you don't remove enough of the suffix from words. For example, forgetfulness, where you actually have two different suffixes which you should indirectly remove, might be stemmed indirectly to forgetful instead of forget. And finally, in some languages, you would have irregular forms which have to be treated separately, if at all. For example, in English, you would have feet, or foot, goose, geese, woman, women. And the idea, again, would be to match these to the same index form. But in order to do that, because these are special cases, you would basically have to come up with a rule for each of these exceptional cases. So our approach to studying for Bengali is a rule-based stemmer, which was created by a native speaker, the main contributor to this, Devasis Ganguly. And the focus on our approach is on noun, because we think that nouns, in this case, have the most contribution, or handling nouns would have the most effect for IR. According to one research publication from 2005, there are actually 4 different categories for suffixes for Bengali nouns. You could have title markers, which are added as a suffix to a proper noun, then classifiers indicating plurality, specificity, or the gender of the noun. For example, picture or the picture would be indicated by having a different suffix. For female students, a female would correspond to a different suffix in the Bengali word. Then we have case markers for possessive or accusative relations, and finally emphasizers to indicate something like only a picture or only this picture. Unfortunately, I can't read Bengali stuff. So our Bengali stemmer consists of iteratively removing all these different suffixes corresponding to the different cases we had, and only doing that for nouns. So first we drop the emphasizers, then classify case markers, title markers, plural suffixes, and derivational suffixes. And we do this until we find a matching suffix. The Hindi approach is somewhat similar, but compared to Bengali, we have fewer stemming rules. Again, we have a rule-based stemmer, which was created manually, but same native speaker. And this is a bit different. So we start from the rightmost character of the word and iteratively remove characters until we find a consonant. So we remove Hindi vowels, matras, anuswara, and the character ya from the right until we find the first consonant. Then we also drop some derivational suffixes to use to boys, for example, boy. So for our submission in the mobility extraction task, we participated in the experiment for Bengali and Hindi again. Our stemmers were implemented in C, and we had to submit the source code to the organizers. The stemmers are actually available on the homepage of Devasis Ganguly. I forgot to put the link up in here, but you can download it and use it in your own application. So the stem forms, after processing all the words, stems form are used by the organizers to index them and to retrieval with carrier information retrieval engine. these are the results. So for Bengali, we have a number of teams. The baseline provided by the organizers was 0.27 mean average precision, and using our approach, we end up with something like 0.33. In this case, only one team was better, which achieved 0.3307. So I think the difference in these results is first the top two results is statistically insignificant. Which means we can say the Bengali stemmer worked quite well. Similar approach, the similar result can be observed for Hindi. Again, we have a baseline, in this case, 0.28 mean average precision. And using our stemmer, we only have a slight increase in precision to 0.29, but that's better than the, I think, language-independent approach by ISM. So to sum it up, our Bengali stemmer achieved the second best performance, but the difference to the results of the first team is statistically insignificant. The Hindi stemmer gets good performance, best performance of the two participants in this task. And actually, both of the stemmers have been used before in ad hoc information retrieval experiments, so we knew somehow that they kind of worked and get a good improvement compared to mixing raw surface workflows. As future work, we want to explore the use of exclusion lists for irregular cases. So I'm not a native speaker, I don't know if there are many irregular cases for Bengali and Hindi, but it might be worth looking into selecting that as a resource. Then next we would want to extend the rule set, going from handling the nouns only to handling verbs, probably adjectives and verbs as well. Certainly we might want to look at comparing our results to existing stemmers for Bengali and Hindi, or maybe the organizers also want to do that. There are existing stemmers for Indian languages in the upcoming version 4, or maybe it's already been released, of Lucene, where they basically follow, at least for Bengali, they follow a described approach from the research literature. And Jacques Savoy's webpage actually has one or more stemmers, like and aggressive, I think, for some Indian languages. So it might be worth trying that out as additional baselines and see if the results achieved with these stemming approaches are better. Also, one might want to look at performance of using a cluster-based approach like yes, yet another suffix terminology, which is a tool that should be freely available on the internet. And finally, we might look a bit more into the morphology of named entities or proper nouns, which I work for Indian languages. So that's it. Thank you for your attention.
Any questions, suggestions?
So could I infer from your talk that you found it valuable to have this evaluation framework, so that you could do this kind of a study? And if that's the case, I wonder if it would be useful next year to think about how to take advantage of the fact that we have many different stemmers participating, maybe with some sort of voting scheme or combination of evidence or lattice input. Would that be interesting to the participants to do something that involved many people thinking differently about stemming?
Okay. For the first question, as I mentioned, we already did some experiments on the ad hoc data. But we never actually tried to identify the impact of different processing stages, like stop word removal or stemming on the IR performance. So making this a subtask or a separate task on its own actually would lead to identifying the best practice of stemming for different Indian languages. So other participants could benefit from that, and I think that that's a good idea to identify which one is the best stemmer and how can we improve upon these results. So any additional experiments from people at FIRE or from researchers doing research on Indian language information retrieval should also compare against these results and report results of their stemming approaches. They developed this kind of tool. The second question, one of the subtasks was manual comparison, I think. So one could either think of using the results from different stemmers to help in the manual annotation of data to define a gold standard or a reference for the morphology extraction of Indian language words, or to combine actually the output of different stemmers and see the combination helps to improve the results. I'm not sure how to do the combination in that case, because you might have completely orthogonal approaches which are hard to combine. So one might think that indexing on the subword level, which was something we worked on a while ago, where you have not a single lemma corresponding to a surface form, but more than one index term per word, which would be something like decompounding. And to combine that with stemma, which returns only a single word for each surface form, a single index term for each surface form, would be quite challenging.
Thank you very much.
I'm not very familiar with the subtask, so it's a very short clarification question. So once you submitted your run, so did you only submit a morpheme extracted and the IR part was taken care of the organizer?
Yes. So that simplifies the comparison, because the organizers use the same subword list, the same retrieval engine, the same retrieval model, and you can actually compare what the performance is in this case. So you might have different results using a different retrieval model, but that's something the organizers could also do, run different parameter settings for the same submission.
Yeah, the system had to generate a bi-column file in which there's the word against its morpheme. I have a question, like you said, probably I didn't follow it properly. What was the source for your this inflectional forms and all? You said there was a native speaker.
Oh yeah, the main author of this, Devashish Ganguly, came up with some ideas for Hindi and Bengali. So for Bengali, we followed some description of morphologic analysis from the literature from the Taharia, some of us in 2005. And for Hindi, I think he just looked at a lot of words and then came up with the ideas of removing something from the right of the word. And I think the derivation of suffixes again are probably from the literature with the cases.
Any more questions? Okay, let us thank the speaker again.